Hey everybody, it's Mark again, and I've got a few grandfather clocks, as y'all be able to see going around my house. But these two here are the oldest clocks, and this is a clock that me and my daughter drove to Kentucky to get. But this clock, which is made by Benjamin Gray of Loughborough, England, I got over in England. I got it from my neighbor. I traded a garden shed that I bought when I first got to England for this clock. I wanted this clock and offered to buy it off the guy. And then he found out he had cancer and he was moving to Ireland. So he wanted my garden shed, which I told him, I said, he came back and told me he wanted 250 pounds for the clock, which was around $400 or so when I was over in England. And I told him I can give him the money or I give him the garden shed that I had sold, that I had up for sale, and somebody was wanting to pay me the 250 pounds for it, and he chose the garden shed. But anyway, when over in England, a lot of the cottages, they don't have tall ceilings. So what they would do, they would cut the toppers off. And so when I got the clock, I paid somebody to redo the hood of the clock. This top part is called the hood, and after a while we're going to take it off. But it had the original glass. It had everything. It's a 30-hour clock. It's a one rope system where it has a heavyweight and then it has a counterweight. And the purpose behind the counterweight is to keep this rope in place. Just like this clock, it's a one chain system. It has a heavyweight and then it has a counterweight to keep the chain in place. But prior to me leaving England, I had this thing appraised twice. I had it appraised, but I had two different people look at it. Clock repair person, been repairing clocks for 30 plus years. He redid the dial for me, and he told me that this clock was made in 1780. And prior to leaving England, I had to get it appraised because I had to buy supplemental insurance. It appraised for $5,000. This was in 2000. In May of 2000, when I left England, the shippers built a crate for this clock out of plywood. Out of all my clocks, the only thing that got damaged was this clock. And it's the original glass, which went in this door, which had the imperfections, the bubbles, the whole 9 yards, broke. So I had to get appraised again to make a claim on my supplemental insurance. And the guy that appraised it, clock repair person, been repairing clocks forever, again told me it was made in 1780, and he appraised it for $5,000. Now the clock will not appraise for that today because the bottom had dropped out of grandfather clocks. Most people don't want them in their house. The people that have them in their house have them as a status, say, hey, I'm wealthier than you or whatever, for the most part. And a lot of people make their money off of repairing grandfather clocks. Well, this clock needs repaired, needs serviced. When it strikes, it's not striking. And so I'm going to remove the hood. And again, this is called the hood. Antique clocks, as you can see, This is sliding away. Antique clocks have hoods on them. Some of the clocks of today have got hoods on them also. But I'm going to take the movement out of this clock, put it on my... I'm going to take the movement out of this clock and try to figure out why it's not striking, and then I'm going to put it on my test stand and get it in beat. When I first moved in this house, I was working on this clock, but I was working and I paid some people to clean my house. And when they cleaned my house, they threw away some parts to this clock. And so I had to order some other parts from Time Savers for this clock. Now, this is a rope system. Originally, they were called cat gut, and it's tied together there. It's a one rope system. So anyway, that's what we're going to do today. And I was just telling my group, the antique clocks, they would pay people to come out to put them in beat. Antique clock, a lot of antique clocks have got nail holes in the back board there, to where after they put it in beat, got it working, that they would nail the clock to the wall. The biggest issue with grandfather clocks, people want to sweep their house. They want to rearrange their house. They get tired of the clock being in the same spot, and so they move it, and they don't know what the heck they're doing. Whenever you move a clock, you're required, grandfather clock, or any weight-driven clock, you're required to take the weights off and take the pendulum off. And then you move it, and you put that stuff back on, because if you move the clock with the weights and the pendulum on, the force of you moving the thing will put the pendulum out of beat. Even with modern clocks, such as this clock right here, if you were to move it, it has a slip clutch type system on it. If you were to move it without taking the pendulum off and the weights, the force of you moving it is going to cause that pendulum to shift, which is going to cause that slip type clutch system to shift and get the clock out of beat. And whenever you set up a clock, you really need two people, especially on these antique clocks. You really need two people. That way you can put shims underneath the clock to get the even beat. I didn't have a beat amplifier at the time, but now I do, and so I need to work on this clock. I need to work on that clock also, but I need to work on this clock. Here's the original picture that I took before I had the hood fixed. As you can see, it no longer has the center part or the arches on the hood, and that's what had to be fixed. So before you can work on this thing, you have to take the weights off, and you got to take the pendulum off. If you look right here, there's a slot right here. That way the rope can come out. And here's the pendulum. You got to take that stuff off before you can work on this movement. So that's what I'm going to do now, off camera, and pull the movement out of the case. It wasn't as easy as it should have been. The suspension spring did not want to come up out of its slot. So these little hooks here is also to seat the movement onto the board. But anyway, I got the movement out, so time to take in my bedroom where I work on my clocks. This arm here is for the calendar. I take that back. It's what hits the single pin for the clock to strike on the hour. There's only one pin on this clock, so it only strikes on the hour. Well, it came off. So I need to remove the hands. I need to get a container to put all these parts in. Is what I need to do. Removing the hands. There will be a tapered pin and for hold the minute hand on, but there isn't right now. So its hand is off. And then there's a keeper, I don't know what you call it, for the hour hand. Pull that off, and then the hour hand comes off. And then there's a couple of washers that go down to take up space for the hour hand. And then, just like with most clocks, there's tapered pins to take the dial off. So I need to take the dial off. This thing has got a calendar on it. And so one tapered pin. There's 3 tapered pins to hold the dial in place, and one up here at the top. But the bell is in the way, so I'm going to take the bell off. And there's a little rubber washer that goes down on the bell. And the last tapered pin looks like I put a nail in it. So now I can take the dial off. The dial I had professionally redone when I was over in England. You couldn't read that information. And then again, it has a calendar. So now I need to check out the movement to see why it's not doing what it's supposed to do. As you can see, there's only one pin on this. If it struck on the half hour, there would be 2 pins. Never was 2 pins. There's only one pin. And this there's a pin here that this arm rests on. That way it don't drop too much. And then you can see when I lift that arm, that's what starts everything in motion. But I want to see if I can make it strike, which it does. And that was the only issue I believe was that arm was not in the proper place. This rope was done over in England by my clock friend. This pulley system is what the main weight hangs on. Again, it's a 1-rope system, 30-hour clock. With the pulley in the proper place, the weight hangs on here. Now, I made this stand here to accommodate for working on bigger clocks, such as grandfather clocks. And I added the little cuckoo section there. But my bedroom has got air conditioner. I don't have central heat and air, and that's why I work on my clocks in here. I don't have central heat and air yet. And I told you that this clock used to work back when I was married, okay? And then when I moved, after a divorce, all my stuff was in storage for several years, to include in my house. So I started working on this clock, and then I told you I paid somebody to clean my house. This comes right out. There are no holes in the end of this for a pin to go. There's no holes anywhere in this thing for the pin to go. So what would keep it in is, after you put this on, there should be a washer of some sort to prevent this from coming up like that, but there's not. So I'm gonna have to make something to prevent this from coming up, because as you can see, this comes out. I think it used to have something, I moved in my house in 2008. I got a divorce in 2005. The last time this clock was working was in 2003 at my last duty station. So it's been too many years to remember, and I don't have the pictures to remember what held this in place. But I'm pretty sure it was some kind of washer that bit on here, maybe a wooden washer that bit on this intermediate wheel to prevent this entire section from coming forward. Now, just like with cuckoo clocks, there's I don't have a pen in this thing either. There's a clutch system, a compression washer, a piece of metal that is underneath this wheel, that if your hands are dropping, then you need to put more pressure. You can see that piece of metal right there. You need to put more pressure to prevent your hands from dropping. So the only thing I'm going to do to this movement is put some fresh oil on it, put something on this to prevent this from coming forward, and put this lever back on to where it's supposed to be, put it on my movement stand, and get it in beat. I forgot to mention that this tab right here is for the calendar, so you have to put this on where you need to put it. Because every 24 hours it's going to rotate one full revolution to trip the calendar. So you'd want to start with it up in the air like so. After it struck for the strike. But I'll figure that all out when I put it on my stand. It's kind of hard to do this in your hands. As I was saying, I think the people that clean my house threw these parts away, but I don't have a big brass washer to put on here. So I'm thinking outside the box here. Got a piece of wood, took a hole saw, made myself a hole. Here it is. When I put it on, it fits and it will do the job. It will prevent this from coming out of the hole. I just have to come up with one of these keepers here. I think that will work. I'm gonna put some Aleene's glue on it and let it dry to prevent, because this is laminated flooring that I use. So I'm gonna put some Aleene's glue on it and let it dry so the pieces of wood, if any, will not come off and get into my movement. Now, using my safety pen, if you watched my video the other day, I used a safety pen, the end of a safety pen, to make the, because I didn't have a taper pen that I liked. The rest of my safety pen I use, and you have to make them into an S so they don't fall out. So I got the lever that trips for the strike on, and I got my wooding wheel. I put some paper on it. It's not quite dry, but I think this movement is about ready to go on my test stand so I could test it. And the first thing you want to do before you're putting your movement on your test stand is prevent your test stand from doing that number. You see how it's rocking? So I need to put shims in it. So homemade test stand, okay? I'm not perfect. You see the mistake I made? It's an easy fix. However, when I put the minute wheel with minute arbor on, I put it underneath the rope, catgut, whatever you want to call it. So I gotta take this system back off and let the rope fall and then put it back on. It's only striking one time every time, so I gotta figure that out. Unlike a cuckoo clock where the lever here rides along the count wheel, I have to figure out what keeps it up in the air as it's striking. I have to take a break from clocks every once in a while, or I will go stir crazy. So we're going down to my pond, and I'm going to feed the fish. I fed them yesterday, and I got a video I'm going to post. It says the fish get used to hearing this noise on this four-wheeler, and they will start coming toward the pond where I park so they can get fed. And I'm going to see if that happens today. There's a bunch of big catfish in here. You can see them moving toward where I'm parked. You see that? They're ready to get fed. So this is your commercial of me feeding my fish. there they go. The catfish. And you can find other video that I'm going to post where I was feeding them yesterday and they were swirling all over the place. So I hope you enjoyed this commercial. I'm back away from them a little bit. You see all the dog food I got out there. I got this paddle boat here that I bought for my pond, but the animals dug holes down there, and so I gotta get it filled back in because it's making my pond lower. If you see that box over there, the water used to be all the way up to that box. That box is my horseshoeing box that I made back when I used to shoe horses. But long story short, I'm giving that paddle boat to my son because him and his girlfriend want one. But you see the big fish. I hope you all enjoyed it. Time to get back to working on the clock. The clock's not striking, but one time was a simple fix. I was pulling the rope the wrong way. Let me show you. It's got all these pins right here. And when you pull it the wrong way, when you pull it the right way, it strikes as needed. But when you somehow it wasn't striking earlier, and I think it's because I was running this backwards. Now I'm not for sure, but anyway, it's striking as it's supposed to now. That's where you need to put the weights on to see all this stuff in action. When this goes on top of the pins, that's when it quits striking, because that's when the warning pins hit the tab to prevent it from striking. Okay, so it just got through striking 12, so I got this tab that trips this lever up at the top here, and then I got this tab down at the bottom because it catches the calendar when it's on the bottom. Maybe I could show you that. As you can see, the calendar is on the bottom of this thing. So I might have to maybe I can shine some light in on this thing so you can see. You should be able to see where that lever is, right there. And so it has to be on the bottom to catch the calendar. And the intermediate wheel is going to have a pin that goes through the hole or it'll come off. So instead of me putting this around, just like for the hour hand that goes around this section here, I put the pin through the hole so it keeps the intermediate wheel on. Now with the weight and the counterweight on, again, the only purpose behind that counterweight is to keep that rope hanging down. I don't have the pendulum on, but I'm testing it to see if the hands turn. As you can see, the minute hand is turning. Now this has got a slip clutch system on it, and if I could put my let me find something to put my camera on. Hopefully you can see that. Put a flashlight on the situation. Hopefully I don't knock out my camera in the process. So anyway, same situation. You hold on to the crutch, to the verge, and you move the crutch until you can get it to tick back and forth like that. Okay, and now I have to put the pendulum on. Now the pendulum, this is a part that those girls threw away. This fits down in this slot. That slot is really loose really tight right now. And then you have to put the pendulum up through that hole in the crutch assembly, put that suspension leader inside that block, and then use a pen to keep it in place. So I need to come up with a pen. Now I chose a wire that goes through this block, that goes through the suspension pendulum suspension spring, and I don't have it bent because that block system won't come out with that wire in there. But let me get out my beat amplifier. As you can see, the clock is ticking away. I gotta move this clamp out of my way, or the hand is gonna catch it. Sorry, the lighting sucks, but I'm going to sit here and let this thing run for a while before I put it back in the case. And then I also need to put the dial back on and turn the hands 24 hours to see if the calendar is going to move at midnight. I hope y'all are liking this video. I hope that I'm explaining things. Yeah, again, I know this is not the right part for it, but a person's got to do what they got to do to make things work. Put the bell back on temporarily so you can hear it strike. It's got a beautiful sound to it. Again, it only strikes on the hour. Now this should be 2 o'clock here. Just waiting to warning. The ropes are catching on the board. It should have been 2 o'clock. Something went wrong. It should have been 3 o'clock. It's doing it again. Why is it doing it? It was working just fine. Time to investigate more. As I told you all ago, this lever, when it hits these pins, is when it stops striking. So I'm going to trip it to show you it striking. It's kind of hard to do all this and hold this movement. Okay, so the issue was the lever that trips the system was I put it on the wrong way. I need it. Maybe I could, because it wasn't going down far enough. It also could be that this is bent wrong, because with this lever off, it will do its thing. I'm just gonna rotate it this way. With this lever off, it would do its thing. But this might be on wrong also, so I need to investigate more, because you could saw it was bouncing a little bit as I was tripping it. But I will get there. With a little bit of adjustments to this section right here and cleaning it up, now when I trip it, mark go the right way. And to do it after I turn the hands, it's not catching on the hands, and it might have something to do with my block of wood. Work on that now. Little fine-tune adjustments, and now when I trip the hands, this is what happens when it goes into warning. Gotta go really slow, governor pin catches, the pins stop it from striking. The pins that on this lever here, there's a pin on the third wheel warning pin, then there's a pin on this wheel here that prevents it from striking until this lever drops. This should be 5. Perfect. Boo-boo, but I want you to see that this weight has nothing to do with the strike, has nothing to do with the time. So, again, the only purpose behind this counterweight is to keep that rope straight up and down. And by the way, the pendulum rod does unscrew from this block, but you got to figure out which is easier, unscrewing this pendulum rod or putting all this together while hanging on to the heavy pendulum. As I was saying before, moving the clock to clean behind it, which you really shouldn't do. You should just leave it alone if it's working. Howard Miller puts this labels in some of their clocks. Caution, remove pendulum and weights from clock whenever changing clock location. You really need to do that if you're going to buy a clock and bring it home. You need to remove the pendulum and weights. And that's with any clock, not just a grandfather clock. If it's a weight-driven clock, remove the pendulum, remove the weights. But secure the chains or rope or whatever so it doesn't come off the great wheels. On a side note, I get tired of adding my other Jacobs chuck when I want to mess with something small that doesn't fit in the drill because it doesn't close enough. I saw this on a on a Facebook Reels video. You take a straw, you shove it in your chuck. And I got this straw long enough so it goes all the way down. And then you put the same thing that you're wanting to work on inside. It doesn't lock it all the way, but it'll work. It locks it enough that I can take my Dremel, turn this on, and sand it down. My issue I'm having with this clock is adjusting this lever. It is currently striking at 10 minutes past the hour. In order to get it to strike earlier, you bend this out. But every time I bend it out, it doesn't strike at all. And when I bend it in too much, this gets stuck like right here. It don't drop properly. I think the warning levers in here I think the warning levers are in the wrong position because when this lever is bent properly, it doesn't want to strike. but I can get it to work with the hands at 10 minutes past the hour, and that's where I love modern day hands, because they're designed where they have an arbor and you can hold onto that arbor and adjust the hand to put it where you want it. And with cuckoo hands, I say, if they're plastic hands, to make a square hole into a round hole, and once you get enough pressure on it, it will turn the hands, it will turn the system properly. But this is an antique hand. I don't want to make that into a round hole. So the best thing to do is to think about what I need to do. Sometimes you gotta walk away. And so I have to put up with this being in my bedroom for a while until I figure out what I want to do. This is the lever that is for the, just like on a cuckoo clock, that is for the, this is the lever that is tripped by the one of two pins, but in this case it's a one pin system. But every time I set it, it seems to, this seems to get in the way. Every time I try to adjust it, I don't want to break it. I'm thinking about curving this out, taking some of this material away, but it worked, from the manufacturer, so it's just hard to get adjusted.